Welcome to the Payments NZ Fireside Chat series, bringing together industry voices to explore how payment systems need to evolve beyond speed and efficiency toward trust, resilience, and system-wide coordination. Are we underestimating the strength of existing foundations in Aotearoa? And Steve, I think it'd be good to hear from you on this one first.
I think to some extent we are. We do get criticised for where the system is at and what it needs to do. And we're certainly saying, yes, there is more work to do. But if we look at our core foundations of the payment system, we are one of the highest card users per capita globally. We've got low cash usage. We don't have checks anymore. And we've moved our core payments rails to 7 days a week. So when I look at that from sort of a balanced scorecard perspective, when other jurisdictions who may have introduced, say, for example, real-time capability, often that accounts for 20 to 30% of the volume of the actual ecosystem itself. The bulk of the payments are still going through 5 days a week in batch, about 5 times a day. And so with our foundational move, the 7-day payments settling every half hour to an hour, it's a pretty strong foundation. But I think we should also look at that in terms of the role that could play in the future as a really strong redundancy option for a modern payments infrastructure of the future for Aotearoa.
And I think just thinking a little bit more on that, Steve, the other element that we've got here that's a little bit unique was industry-led APIs, which is delivering some of these value adds on top of the existing system as well. So just your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, totally. That's a very timely call out for the API Centre and also the standardisation of APIs for both payment initiation and account information. And one of the other steps we took here is actually make those read-write as well, just to make it a bit more interesting for the fintechs to sort of get out of bed and actually develop solutions around that. So we're now seeing sort of real-time capability built off the foundations of those payment initiation APIs through the API Centre, which is really exciting from that point of view. That doesn't replace the need for infrastructure solutions, but if consumers are wanting to have that experience, they're in market now and will continue to grow.
I think that's an essential set of components to build this more resilient infrastructure, Steve. I mean, crucially, so you already have a domestic scheme. I think that's a really important part of it. And obviously that can be developed in different directions. You're beginning to look at instant payments at, ultimately at retail point of sale and for online and stuff like that. I think that's crucial. I remember the consultation paper about central bank digital currency. I mean, I think that's all on the back burner at the moment, but I think that's going to come back again for a variety of reasons that we don't need to go into here. And then you've got the issue of using stable coins as a completely alternative set of rails where you see serious players like Stripe and so on pouring a lot of money into building these new blockchains. So I think with the combination of the building blocks you've already got, which are pretty solid, plus the other stuff people are building, I don't know. I mean, to me, that seems like a fairly kind of confident place to begin.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think one of the things about confidence is it's easy to underestimate the effort of setting standards, coordinating a disparate group of participants to agree on those standards, setting accreditation to check that people adhere to those standards. So you've got not just technical interoperability, but the governance and an expectation of how, the system will work outside of that. And for me, the example of the API Centre in New Zealand is really quite a standout. In Australia, we had to have legislation from the government to push the banks into sharing data through APIs. And I think we shouldn't underestimate the incredible journey that Payments New Zealand has taken its members on in making this data available and building a network of participants that are using these APIs to deliver benefit to end users.
So where does this take us, Victoria? What potential does it open up?
I'm going to set us in a digital economy example so we're all kind of thinking about the same thing. So quite an easy example is to think, okay, when you book a flight, and it's very real. I was looking last night at booking a flight to the UK and I go on and the context is clear to me. My intention is clear. So what do I mean by that? I can see how much it's going to cost. And that cost is based on how many stopovers, the routing, how many status points I'm going to earn, whether I want to use my miles and my points to contribute to paying for the cost of the flight. So all of that is really clear, and I can make a decision in the moment, and I'm authorizing my sort of stored payment mechanism to pay for that transaction. That's very simple. When I was looking last night, I thought, oh, that's $3,000. I'm sure that price is going to come down. And there's a little button you can click and it says, keep your cross changes to this price. And I thought, that's great. And that's where, actually, that's probably not that useful, because I'm going to get an email that says, the flight's gone down. I'm going to be doing something else. I'm not going to be able to act on it. So what we think will happen is my Victoria bot will sit there, it will see the price come in, it will see it's gone down, and it will book. But what if it books me with 4 different stopovers? So I've said keep the price, that's easy to imagine. We want a lower price. But that price is determined by lots of these different changing factors. The context has changed. I have no control over that context. And then I can say, oh, that's not what I intended. But I've got no mechanism to record that intent. So I think those are the things that change, and we need to be able to think about the complexity of a transaction. And when people are talking about agentic commerce and agentic finance, there are 3 things that we understand we have to think about differently. One is the context, like that information changes, the flight information changes. The other is the intent. We have what people are calling intent drift. And the other thing is authorization. I might authorize one type of flight, I might not authorize another. And so those things we really need to think about quite differently. And I think that authorization, we've got some good approaches to that. Lots of the banks that we're working with at the moment, they've already started to get their heads around authorization because of open banking. Open banking has really pushed the banks to think about, okay, is that Victoria? Does she intend to share this information with that third-party provider? Have I got well-managed and governed API endpoints? So we've got some good thinking about authorization. We don't have good thinking about intent at the moment, and there's sort of a rush to the tools on this. Everyone thinks, oh, I've got a great technological solution for this. And what we think is there needs to be more work done at the semantic and then ontology level, because we know that intent means different things in different systems. So for payments, there's good thinking about what intent means, and we don't really have that in a way that can translate really well across different systems. So those 3 things we need to really focus on, because those are the things that change when I have an agent acting on my behalf rather than me in a transaction.
Or why are identity and trust no longer optional layers? Why do we need to be thinking about them as core infrastructure?
So I think as part of understanding why we need them, it's not unhelpful to think about why they're not there. And if you think about DARPANET and when it was set up, it was establishing the sharing of information between trusted entities. And the problem that they were solving was the connection. They didn't care, you're in a university. It's like we know one another, we've met in real life. So the problem they were solving wasn't who's sitting behind that computer. It was, can I connect those computers? So they were solving a very different problem. And that has never been addressed holistically since. So the more automation that happens, the more actors in the transaction, the more acute that problem becomes.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think what's increased the pressure is that, so you're right. So why is the pressure increasing to get something done about that? It's because the introduction of AI has massively increased the threat surface. The attacks are absolutely relentless now. And I'm a sort of technological optimist on these kind of things. So I kind of think, actually, we need AI on the customer side as soon. We need to get AI into place, because AI is the way of protecting and supporting customers. I mean, yes, the bad guys are using AI, but to be honest, my bot should be much harder to fool than me. So in terms of actually protecting me, we need to get AIs into place as quickly as possible. we can't get those AIs in place. We can't have those interactions unless we solve the identity problem. Because how do I know whether it's a good bot or a bad bot? How do I know whether it's acting on your behalf? Or like, until we do that identity stuff, we can't get. And we need the AIs in place, because if only the bad guys have got the AIs, then, you know, the assaults just become relentless. We drown in it. We need to get our AIs out there. And I mean by kind of regulated institutions. We can't hallucinate. We can't, you know what I mean? Like the bad guys don't face those same constraints. So we need our AIs in place, and we need identity to do that. And in a weird way, by the way, I think I'm not the only person that thinks this. In a weird way, the pressure for agentic AI is actually going to kind of, in a way, feed back into the other problems we didn't properly solve before, like know your business, know your employee. Like there were these other problems that we sort of didn't quite get around to fixing. And, you know, I wonder if the pressure for agentic identity is actually going to help in those other areas as well, because we have to sort those out too in order to make it all work in the agentic space. So I'm kind of optimistic.
That's good. Optimism's good. I mean, it is foundational. Every transaction in a digital ecosystem, whether that's person to person or bot to bot. So without them, we're just not going to scale safely. So yeah, absolutely critical. Agree, Dave.
Because you've got to, just even in the simple example that Vic gave earlier on, it's very easy to say, well, I'll get the Dave bot to go to the British Airways bot and get a ticket. But how the hell do I know it's the British Airways bot? Never mind, do they know it's me? You know, it's like we don't have any of that stuff in place at the moment.
I think that's the point. It is technologically, it's solvable now. You can have a trust mark issued by British Airways or Qantas that is verifiable at the point of the transaction. I think the broader point is, how do we, and this is why I think it's interesting to think about existing infrastructure. How do we expand that existing infrastructure to introduce that? Because I think we're not using the existing technology, existing trust marks well enough at the moment.
Thank you for listening to the Payments NZ Fireside Chat series. More conversations to come as we continue shaping the future of payments. If you want to hear more from us and global thought leaders in payments, check out our upcoming conference, The Point, 25th and 26th November in Auckland, Aotearoa, New Zealand.